Sometimes the best stories, the really interesting ones, aren't the ones everyone's talking about. They're kind of hidden away.
Absolutely. Tucked in old books, or like you find online sometimes, these forgotten corners.
Yeah, finding one feels like uncovering something special. And, well, that leads us right into our source for this deep dive.
Right. We're looking at the very first episode of a podcast called the Windy Valley Digest. Their whole thing is bringing these lesser-known, maybe lost stories into the light.
So, our mission today is basically to unpack what they presented in that episode. It's this really fascinating mix, isn't it?
It really is. You get this very real, very poignant historical piece right alongside the beginning of a classic novel. We want to pull out the main ideas, see how they connect.
And the source jumps right in, setting this intense mood. It starts with the Great War, World War I, as the backdrop.
Yeah, grounding everything in that historical reality.
But before the novel even starts, they share something personal. A letter from a soldier.
That's right. Enzo Valentini, he was Italian. The source tells us a bit about him, son of a count, who was mayor of Perugia. Enzo himself was an artist, loved science, went to the college there.
And then Italy declares war, May 1915, and he enlists as a private.
Right. And this letter, he wrote it just before heading to the front. It was for his mother, only if he didn't make it back.
The message in it is, well, it's pretty profound.
It really is. He talks about the soul being immortal,
Yeah.
coming from God, returning to God. Death isn't an end for him.
No, it's like a liberation, the start of the true life, he calls it, a return to joy. It's quite something.
Such a perspective facing what he was facing.
And then there's this part for his mother. He asks her not to weep too much, but then says, if her heart does mourn, her tears are sacred, like stars in her crown.
Oh, that line is just, it hits hard. So tender.
And the source doesn't soften the blow. It tells us what happened.
Yeah. Enzo Valentini didn't come back to Perugia. He was killed really quickly, too, less than 3 months later.
They even describe his last moments. First, out of the trench in an attack.
Reached an advanced post, embraced a comrade, shouted, Italia Savoia, Italy Savoy, the royal house, and then charged on.
Oh.
So starting with Enzo's story, his sacrifice, it sets this incredibly human, poignant context. It's not just history, it's people.
Exactly. This is the reality behind the fiction that follows. It makes the fictional story feel grounded somehow.
And then the source pivots to that fiction. It's a novel called Bernard Treves Boots, a novel of the Secret Service.
By Lawrence Clark from 1920. The Windy Valley Digest is actually doing it as a series. This is just chapter 1 and 2.
Okay, so we meet our main character, John Manton. He's a sergeant, but disgraced.
His problem is very specific. He needs money. 145 dives exactly.
Why does he need that specific amount?
It's a deficit from his batteries accounts. Money disappeared while under his care deliveries or something, circumstances muddled, but he got blamed.
Oh, okay. So he feels responsible.
Deeply. His goal isn't just the money, it's repaying it for the honor of the battery. That's key.
Honor. Right. So he needs the cash. What does he do?
He tries to re-enlist, shows up at the recruiting office in a place called Ride.
And who does he meet there?
Captain Gilbert. And Gilbert's reaction is where things get weird. He looks at Manton with intense interest and bewilderment.
Why? What does he see?
Well, he notes Manton looks like he's been in the army. Tall, 26, dark hair, blue eyes, looks strong but pale. Clothes are worn out. But there's something else, a peculiar expression.
Intriguing. Gilbert senses something's up.
Definitely. So much so that he asks Manton to meet him privately. Later that night, 8 p.m., deserted side street. Very cloak and dagger.
Okay, setting the scene. What happens?
This is the big twist. Gilbert just comes right out and calls him Treves.
Treves? Not Manton.
Nope. He says something like, I knew you had the grit to do it, Treves, and talks about making reparation. He insists he knows him, despite the rough appearance.
Wow. Okay, so mistaken identity right off the bat. How does Manton react?
Completely floored, obviously. He insists, no, my name's Manton. I've never met you.
This is fascinating. So Gilbert thinks Manton is this Treves guy who apparently needs to make amends for something.
Seems like it. Manton, trying to sort this out, tells Gilbert his actual story.
The whole 145 thing.
Yeah. Confirms he was a sergeant, battery A, scarrowhead, public school background, was the bookkeeper, explains the missing money, the whole deal.
A story that can be checked, presumably.
Exactly. And as Gilbert listens, you can almost see the wheels turning. He realizes Manton's story is too specific, too verifiable. He finally says, then you are not Treves after all. Mispronouncing the name maybe in his surprise, or maybe it's just written that way.
Oh, maybe. Or just Treves. So he believes him.
Not entirely on his word, Gilbert actually makes a call to the commandant at Manton's old fort, Scarrow Fort. Turns out Gilbert knows him.
And what does the commandant say about Manton?
Gives him a glowing review. One of the best, a favorite, nobody really thought he was guilty, great gunner, quite cleared through officially. He'd be happy to have Manton back.
So Manton's totally in the clear. His reputation is solid.
Yep. Which leaves Gilbert with this puzzle, this incredible resemblance between Manton and this Treves guy.
And then, the source says, Gilbert gets a startling idea.
Right. He's thinking about the resemblance, Manton needing money, and whatever it is Treves wants. Though we don't know what Treves wants yet.
Okay, so the gears are turning.
Gilbert's thinking, why not use this? Use the likeness. He has this thought that maybe Treves has kind of got away with something or is hiding, and this could force him to rouse himself, become a man again. It sounds complex.
So maybe helping Treves somehow by using Manton, or helping Manton through Treves.
It seems like a plan is forming to use the resemblance for, well, for some purpose related to Treves, but maybe benefiting Manton too.
Okay, so what's the proposition?
The next morning, Gilbert tells Manton, okay, I believe you're not Treves. He even says he sees a slight difference in the eyes.
Oh, interesting detail, like a character difference.
Maybe. Then he gets down to it, says he has a proposition, hints it'll solve Manton's $145 problem. He gives Manton a letter addressed to Lieutenant Bernard Treves, 15 Sage Road, Lamington. Manton's job. Deliver it quietly that evening.
Just deliver a letter.
Gilbert hints there's more. Says the plan will work out for Manton, that Treves might provide the money, but Manton has to learn how to earn it from Treves.
Okay, so Manton is sent off on this mysterious errand instead of re-enlisting.
Exactly. Which brings us to Chapter 2. Manton goes to Lamington, arrives in the evening, pouring rain, finds the address, 15 Sage Road.
And what's it like?
Not what he expected, maybe. It's a small workman's cottage, looks a bit shabby. A cautious woman answers the door. Manton feels depressed, thinking Gilbert's plan is some wild piece of quixotism, like a crazy gamble or maybe a trick.
Doesn't sound promising.
No, but he goes up, front room upstairs, small lamp lit, smells of Turkish cigarettes, and it's just littered with luggage. Trunks, suitcases, boxes everywhere.
Packing or unpacking?
Feels like someone's either just arrived or is about to leave in a hurry. And there's Treves. Sitting at a table, writing figures, wearing civilian clothes, well-dressed.
Okay, the first meeting. How does Treves react?
Initially, he doesn't see Manton properly. Thinks it's Mrs. Dodge bringing supper, but then he turns.
And sees Manton.
And his reaction is pure terror. Springs up, stares, demands to know who he is, what he wants. Really aggressive.
Terror. That tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's clearly on edge about something.
Totally. So Manton identifies himself, hands over Gilbert's letter. Treves takes it, lowers the lamp to see better, and then it hits him.
Resemblance.
He says, God, I thought that I was looking into my own face. He asks Manton to come into the light, look in the mirror with him, calls the likeness amazing.
And Anne sees it too.
Yeah, he's astonished. Finally gets why Gilbert was acting so strangely. The source notes Manton hadn't really thought about his own looks much.
That's an interesting character note.
It is. He does see differences, though. Treves has a black mustache, looks flushed. Manton's pale. We learned it's from gas poisoning from the war.
Ah, another war connection. And the eyes. Did Manton notice what Gilbert noticed?
Yes. He describes Treves' eyes as evasive and furtive, which contrasts with Manton, who seems very direct and honest.
So physically almost identical, but maybe fundamentally different people inside.
Looks like it, but still hard to tell apart at first glance. So Treves reads Gilbert's letter, reads it several times, then he talks about the extraordinary suggestion in it, sparked by the resemblance.
What's the suggestion?
Treves says he needs help. He's in peculiar circumstances. He needs someone to make use of my name and my personality for a short time.
To impersonate him.
Exactly. Someone to step into my shoes, take the name of Bernard Treves. He puts it right out there.
Wow. And he connects this to Manton's money problem.
Directly. Your need for 150 pounds, my need for a double. Perfect timing, sort of.
Yeah.
How does Manton take this?
He's amazed, naturally. Has some vague doubt. Doesn't quite see how it benefits him yet, maybe. But he trusts Captain Gilbert. He does ask one practical question, though.
What's that?
Can he still enlist later if he does this? Still focused on his original plan B.
Interesting. What does Treves say?
Treves is keen. He says yes, promises Manton the 150 pounds if he'll just carry out my wishes. Says Manton is to take everything that is mine. And then he drops another bomb.
What?
He mentions he's leaving the army.
Leaving the army during the war. That sounds suspicious.
Very. But Manton, desperate for that money to restore his battery's honor, accepts. Like a bird, the text says. Calls the money a great boon.
He takes the deal. Just like that.
Seems so.
Yeah.
Then there's one last detail. Manton asks, "What happens to my name?" to Sergeant Manton.
Good question.
And Treves replies, sounding relieved the deal is done. For the time being, the name of Sergeant Manton will vanish into thin air.
Chilling line. Vanish into thin air.
Right. So let's just step back. Think about this setup.
Okay. We have Manton, driven by honor, needing to clear his name and his unit's reputation.
But the path he takes involves his own name, his identity just disappearing. Poof.
He agrees to become this other person, Bernard Treves, who looks just like him.
A person who is clearly in some kind of serious trouble, hinted at by the peculiar circumstances, the terror, leaving the army.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of World War I, which we were reminded of so powerfully with Enzo's story at the start. Secrets, danger, identity, it's all woven together.
It leaves you spinning with questions, doesn't it? Like, what exactly are these peculiar circumstances?
Yeah, and why is Treves leaving the army? Is he deserting, or is it something else?
What is this delicate piece of work Manton is supposed to do as Treves? Gilbert hinted at it. Treves needs it done.
And what does it really mean for Manton, for his identity to just vanish? Can you just erase who you are?
These first couple of chapters just plunge you right into these big themes, Identity, obviously. Honor Manton's driving force. Desperation. Sacrifice.
It's a different kind of sacrifice than Enzo's, but still profound. Giving up your name, yourself.
Yeah, and the whole idea of having a double, trading places,
Mm-hmm.
it's instantly compelling. It makes you think about what makes you you. Is it to your name, your history, or something else?
It really hooks you in. You want to know what happens next.
Definitely. And just to mention, the Source podcast, the Windy Valley Digest, they point people to their website for other stuff, folktales, stories, illustrations.
Right, and they have a YouTube channel, too. Illustrated audiobooks, like Tom Sawyer, apparently. They ask for likes on Facebook, subscribes on YouTube, the usual call to action.
And they end their episode with a quote from Haruki Murakami.
Which is,
"If you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking."
that fits perfectly, doesn't it?
It really does. This whole deep dive is about exploring one of those stories that maybe isn't on everyone's radar, thanks to the Windy Valley Digest finding it.
It's like the quote says, looking beyond the mainstream, seeking out these less familiar stories, like Bernard Treves Boots. It can broaden how you think.
Exactly. It encourages you, the listener, to think about that. What other amazing stories are out there, kind of hidden, waiting for you to discover them?